Power Automate versus Logic Apps versus D365, when to use each. Hey, welcome. In this video, we're breaking down Power Automate versus Logic Apps versus D365, when to use each. Let's get into it. Now, what each tool actually does. Before comparing features, it helps to understand what drove Microsoft to build three separate automation products in the first place. Power Automate is Microsoft's low-code automation tool built into the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform ecosystem. It's designed for business users who want to automate repetitive tasks without writing code. Think automatically saving email attachments to SharePoint, sending approval notifications in Teams, or syncing data between forms and spreadsheets. The tool connects to over 1,000 services via pre-built connectors, including Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow, and most Microsoft 365 apps. You build flows through a visual drag-and-drop interface that most non-technical users can figure out in a day. As we've covered in Power Automate for SMBs, cut repetitive work by 60%, teams that adopt Power Automate consistently report cutting manual task time by 50 to 60% within the first 3 months. Next up, let's talk about how Power Automate versus Logic Apps versus Dynamics 365 workflows stack up. The table makes the decision clearer than most Microsoft documentation does. The right tool depends less on what features you want and more on who's running it and what systems it needs to touch. Next up, when to use Power Automate for your business. Power Automate is the right choice when your team runs on Microsoft 365 and the people who need automation aren't developers. That covers most SMBs' specific scenarios where Power Automate wins. The 5 Power Platform low-code solutions for SMBs guide covers several of these patterns in detail if you want implementation specifics. Let's talk about when Azure Logic Apps makes more sense. Logic Apps is the right choice when you have technical staff available and the integration problem is genuinely complex. That usually means one or more of these conditions. For SMBs doing compliance automation, Logic Apps is particularly strong. We've written about this in How to Automate SMB Compliance using Azure Logic Apps, where structured error handling and audit trail features matter for regulatory requirements. Now, when Dynamics 365 Workflows is the right call. Dynamics 365 Workflows makes sense in one specific scenario. You're running D365 as your primary business platform and you need automation that responds to record-level events inside that platform. Good use cases. Where it fails, the moment you need to connect to something outside of Dynamics 365. Classic workflows have no external connector support. If you need to update a row in an external SQL database, post to Slack, or send a PDF to a third-party service, you'll need Power Automate or Logic Apps anyway. Now, moving on to cost breakdown, Power Automate versus Logic Apps in 2026. Cost is where the decision often gets made, so here are realistic numbers rather than marketing page ranges. Power Automate pricing. Azure Logic Apps pricing. Next up, moving on to Power Automate versus Logic Apps for banking and fintech. Banking and fintech teams have specific requirements that change the calculus, audit trails, compliance controls, data residency, and the ability to handle sensitive PII and workflows. Both Power Automate and Logic Apps support these requirements, but Logic Apps has a structural advantage. Because it runs natively in Azure, you get. For AML and KYC automation specifically, the pattern most fintech teams use is Logic Apps for the back-end orchestration combined with Power Automate for the front-office notifications and approvals that compliance officers need to action. Now, moving on to how to choose the right Microsoft automation tool. The decision tree is simpler than most comparison guides make it look. Start here. One thing that's easy to overlook: team ownership. Power Automate flows built by business users often become invisible technical debt. Nobody documents them, they break when a connector changes, and the person who built the flow left 6 months ago. If your automation is critical to operations, Logic Apps with proper DevOps practices is more maintainable long-term, even if it costs more to set up initially. Next up, let's talk about conclusion. Choosing between Power Automate versus Logic Apps versus Dynamics 365 workflows comes down to 3 factors: who builds it, what systems it touches, and how much volume it needs to handle. Power Automate works best when business users need to own their automation without developer support. Logic Apps is the right pick when you need enterprise-grade integration, high-volume processing, or Azure-native architecture. Dynamics 365 workflows belongs inside D365 record management and nowhere else. The mistake most teams make is defaulting to Power Automate for everything because it's the most visible Microsoft automation tool. That works until it doesn't, and by then you've got 80 undocumented flows built by people who no longer work there. Pick the tool that matches who will maintain it, not just who will build it. If you need help mapping the right Microsoft automation tool to your specific setup, our team is happy to walk through it with you.